education, training and development. So we're going to have those of you in education, training and development lead the discussion as to what you've understood so far and the way you believe we should begin to change things as the Spirit of God leads you. I believe you even had your meeting earlier on today. So led by Sister Hannah Mijoya, the pastor from Malawi. Those of you that are there can also chip in from every now and then, you know, because I know you have Hannah, you have Jennifer, you have Remy, you have also our sister from Liberia, the pastor also, who just expressed her interest recently, and she is in education also, you know, Beulah, and any of the other persons. So I'll hand over straight to Hannah to go ahead, and then we'll go on from there. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you, sir. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody. We thank God for the education gate, education training and development gate, and what the Lord has enabled us to do this far. Yes, indeed, we've been having meetings. We've been having meetings, and today was the third meeting that we've had since the 10th of the year. And it's been quite an exciting moment. We've been gathering from varying nations. So what I'm going to do is that, because I'm not the only one who's been in those meetings, I would like to request for those that have been privileged to be part of these meetings to briefly share what we've been discussing. First, maybe just to begin by explaining how we are understanding education to be, both from what we've covered in the past and also through even this time of prayer and fasting, and through what the Lord is saying. So I would want to give opportunity so please, I'll give you opportunity to share, and then I'll come in and add on.
Thank you so much, Sister Hannah. I'll share generally about education, if you don't mind, before I go into what we have been doing as a group. If that's okay with you, please.
Yes, please, you can share generally about education, then I'll come in and share a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay. So generally, from what we have been learning so far, I understand education to be about drawing out the potential of every learner. That's the first aspect. And then the other aspect too is the fact that each one of us, whether you are a facilitator, a teacher, or a learner, you are an inquirer, or research is part of our everyday life. Most often at times, because of the way we tend to put it, we put it as something that is so abstract. Meanwhile, we live with it on a daily basis. So one of the things that the chief servant has shared in recent times, which has set me thinking, is the issue about the primary year program, which is being run by the International Baccalaureate. I hope I pronounce it well. in the US. One of the concepts under that program was the fact that yes, the child is encouraged to learn at their own space, but unlike what is being done in Africa or in most places where they tell you, don't look into your friend's book, don't copy, do individual, do your own work and all that. Under that system, the children work in groups. So they collaborate with one another and they share ideas, which broadens what they're able to learn at every given time. And one other thing that stood out for me is the fact about conceptual learning. What conceptual learning is basically is unlike what we are doing now, where you just learn bits and pieces of everything. Under the program I mentioned, the PYP that I mentioned, they take a concept and learn about it thoroughly before moving on to something else. So in that way, they're able to get a in-depth understanding of what is being taught, what is being researched, or what is being shared amongst themselves as a whole. And then the teacher does not necessarily stand in front of the class like we are used to, the traditional way of teaching. But what happens is that the teacher is like a facilitator, helping and supporting the children in their learning processes. So that's the later I'll share on that aspect. But then in our group meetings as a department, what we've been doing is we are looking at the individual projects that everyone is doing and how best we can collaborate with each other. So I'd like to stop here and give somebody else an opportunity to also share, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Sister Jennifer. And let me encourage that as she's sharing, we're also going to give you opportunity. Either maybe you've got questions, you want to have clarification, or you want to add something, you'll also be welcome to do that. So let me share a little bit more regarding the group, the Education Gate meetings that we've been having. Like I said, so far, this is the third one we've had. Now, these are separate from other meetings that have been going on last year, which are more focused on curriculum development. So the meetings that we've been having, there were 3 areas of focus that we're focusing on, 3 areas of focus. The first thing we were led to discuss was to say whether we've heard any prophecies with regard to the education gate, and they have a burden to see things change in a particular area and any other projects that they could be working on. So it's been a very exciting and interesting time together, because one common aspect of these meetings is that members realize that the way the education is currently, we cannot continue in the same way. So each member has a thought, each member had some idea, each member has some concept which they believe if it is developed, it would help to improve the education that we currently have. And especially because the prophecies that have gone on to do with Africa, revolutionizing the education and the world learning from Africa, then it is very interesting and very exciting that God, in his wisdom, he has put varying ideas, varying concepts in the varying individuals, which if they are developed, harnessed, brought together, then you begin to see that the prophecies that have gone forth, they are true. They are not lying, they are true. And because of that, God is already birthing things in varying individuals from various sections of the world or of the continent. Yeah. So I'll just share some of the projects that came out. Some of them, they are based from the 7 fundamental questions, the book that CS wrote. And there's also one other interesting project is a community-based learning involving underprivileged women and children. Someone has a concept to do with the learners with learning difficulties, to see how they can be helped. Someone had a concept to develop a project that will be dealing with improving integrity, especially in higher learning, which it has become common practice for most learners, especially in the university, that they would seek for a shorter way to pass their exams. So someone, through that, they had a concept that they can develop something to help curb this practice, so that when we see someone has got a degree or whatever qualification they're coming out of the university, it's a genuine qualification. It's not out of cheating. Yeah. Others are to do with life skills. There are also some concepts that are dealing with developing of youth centers in the fellowship center, using fellowship centers as a way of helping restore morality among the young people, apart from also providing recreation centers. So these are some of the concepts, and you'll notice that most of these concepts are dealing with community learning. But if properly developed and harnessed, and you can see that they would make a very big impact in the education sector, apart from the numeracy and literacy, which has been the major focus for much of the learning. So the encouragement has been for members to develop concepts out of these ideas, project papers, concept notes that can be reviewed, and they can now be helped to begin to implement. But one caution that we received is not to make it very expensive or impossible to implement by making it very costly. So it's been a very exciting moment. Even today when we met, we also heard further ideas that other members have. One member shared a concept to do with it's linked to school dropouts, young girls getting married, but when they get married, they don't last in the marriages. They come back to their community, but things are not working out. So someone has embarked on a research to see how these young girls can be helped to bring about to have a lasting solution. Yeah. Issues of sex education, instead of shunning away from the sex education, that was one of the
they're very imbalanced and unstable. They are unbalanced and unstable. They do not know that direction anymore. Like what I tell them, when the children start to have sex, they can be like a drunken man to a bottle. So is the way they behave when they start to have sex. They abuse it. They don't understand that their bodies were borrowed to them by God. God lent them their body, and they should be stewards of their bodies until the appropriate time. So it's very important that we teach the children about sex God's way. And another thing is child abuse, which is very important that we teach the children and neighbors, parents, especially the children, students, what child abuse is all about. Because students have been robbed of their childhood. One of the things I try to teach my students is to let the children be children. There are certain things that Africa had before all this funny exposure was that there are things they don't tell the child. The children need to be children. Our children cannot be looking at X-rated movies. Our children cannot be looking at naked people. Their eyes must remain closed until the appropriate time. Why should parents have to be looking at an X-rated movie with the 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 10-year-old? They are all together in the living room and seeing the wrong things. Because children are like empty telephone. And what they see is what they will catch, is what they record. And then they will start to practice it on other children in the neighborhood. And it's where rape comes in. When the children are exposed to sex in an early age, they start to be disobedient to the parents and rebellious. Because we have hurt, we have damaged their spirits. So it's very important that we should teach the children God's way without any reservation about sex, and that it is God's gift and it is worship, and God intended that sex should be done in marriage. And just how the trees, you see the plants or the seed, you put it in the ground and it grows by stages. Even after the tree is big, it takes a season before it starts to put forth fruit. The tree doesn't just grow big one day, but it takes stages, it takes time. And even when the tree is developed, there's a season it starts to put forth fruit. It's the same thing with the human body. God explained these things with nature. So the children need to understand that it is not time for sex, but it's time for them to develop, that there's a place for them to develop. I've seen it in my country when a child